December 21, 1944. A frozen Belgian road. 10 German half-tracks rolling through morning fog. Inside, battle-hardened panzer grenadiers, veterans who'd survived Normandy, who'd pushed through the Ardennes with panzer divisions at their backs. They weren't afraid of American infantry. Why would they be? The Americans carried bazookas, crude metal tubes the Germans had captured back in North Africa, studied, then dismissed. The Wehrmacht had built something better. The Panzerschreck. Longer, heavier, more powerful. To German eyes, the M1A1 bazooka was a joke, a desperate invention from a nation that couldn't build proper anti-tank weapons. But hidden in those tree lines were American soldiers who'd learned something the Germans hadn't. They'd learned that half-tracks, those fast, maneuverable troop carriers Germany loved, had a fatal weakness. Thin armor, exposed fuel tanks, ammunition stored in open racks. And when you put an M6A1-shaped charge rocket through that armor at the right angle, physics did the rest. 7 minutes. That's how long it took. 7 minutes for 10 half-tracks to turn into burning coffins scattered across 200 yards of snow-covered road. 7 minutes for German confidence to evaporate like breath in frozen air. The first vehicle exploded with enough force to throw a panzer grenadier 100 feet into the air, his body silhouetted against flames before disappearing into the trees. The second followed 12 seconds later. Then the third. Then chaos. German commanders couldn't understand it. How could a basic American weapon, something they'd literally invented a superior version of, be cutting through their mechanized columns like a scythe through wheat? But the Americans understood. They understood that wars aren't won by the best weapons. They're won by the right weapons, used the right way, at the right moment. They understood that an $8 rocket could destroy a vehicle worth thousands. That infantry with courage and training could stop armor in its tracks. And on that frozen December morning, the Germans learned what happens when you underestimate simplicity. This is the story of how a weapon the enemy mocked became the thing they feared most. How American ingenuity turned a basic tool into Eisenhower's favorite weapon of the war. How 10 burning half-tracks taught the Wehrmacht a lesson they'd never forget. This is the story of the bazooka. The bazooka story doesn't begin with triumph. It begins with desperation. May 1942, North Africa. American forces deployed to combat for the first time, carrying a brand new weapon, the M1 rocket launcher, officially designated the Launcher Rocket 2.36-inch M1. Soldiers immediately give it a simpler name, Bazooka, after a makeshift musical instrument popularized by comedian Bob Burns. The name sticks because the weapon looks absurd. A 5-foot metal tube, open on both ends. So simple a child could understand its mechanics. But simplicity doesn't mean ineffective. The M1 uses a shaped charge warhead, an explosive designed to focus its blast into a superheated jet of metal capable of penetrating armor. The concept is revolutionary for infantry weapons. For the first time, regular soldiers can engage tanks without dragging heavy anti-tank guns across battlefields. The bazooka weighs just 13 pounds. 2 men can operate it. 1 aims and fires. 1 loads. American commanders believe they've created an equalizer. Then everything goes wrong. November 1942. Tunisia. German forces overrun American positions during early engagements. Among the captured equipment, several M1 bazookas with ammunition. Wehrmacht intelligence officers examine the weapons with intense interest. They test the rockets against captured armor. They measure penetration. They study the propulsion system, the electrical firing mechanism, the shaped charge design. And they recognize genius. Within months, German engineers begin development of their own version. They call it the Panzerschreck, tank terror. The design mirrors the Bazooka but improves on every dimension. Larger caliber, 88mm versus America's 60mm. Longer effective range, 150 meters compared to the M1's 100. More powerful warhead, capable of penetrating thicker armor. By late 1943, Panzerschrecks are rolling off German production lines by the thousands. German soldiers carry them with pride. They've taken an American idea and made it better. Proof of Aryan engineering superiority, at least in Nazi propaganda. When they encounter American bazooka teams in Italy and France, they laugh. The original weapon seems pathetic compared to their enhanced version. But while Germans celebrated their theft and improvement, American engineers weren't standing still. By mid-1943, the upgraded M1A1 enters production. External changes appear minimal: reinforced tube, improved sights, better trigger mechanism. The real advancement comes in ammunition. The new M6A1 rocket features a more reliable electrical ignition system and, critically, improved shaped charge geometry. Penetration increases from 3 inches to nearly 5 inches of armor plate. Effective range extends to 300 yards. More importantly, American doctrine evolves. Training programs intensify throughout 1944. Infantry units drill endlessly on bazooka tactics. Soldiers learn to target vehicle weak points, engine compartments, fuel tanks, ammunition storage, track assemblies. They practice ambush positioning, close range, concealed positions, multiple teams for crossfire. They study German vehicles obsessively, learning which armor could be penetrated at which angles. By the time Allied forces land in Normandy, every American infantry company has multiple bazooka teams. The weapons prove devastatingly effective in hedgerow fighting, where engagement ranges rarely exceed 100 yards. Reports filter back to German intelligence, but commanders dismiss them. American infantry luck, they say. Terrain advantages. Nothing systematic. The Germans still believe their Panzerschreck makes them superior. To understand what happened that December morning, you must first understand the half-track. The Scarcity series, Sonderkraftfahrzeug, special purpose vehicle, represented German mechanized warfare philosophy. Fast, mobile, able to keep pace with panzer divisions while carrying infantry directly into combat. The most common variant, the Scarcity 251, could transport 10 fully equipped panzer grenadiers at speeds exceeding 30 miles per hour across rough terrain. But speed came at a cost. Armor thickness on German half-tracks rarely exceeded 14.5 meters, barely half an inch. Front plates offered modest protection against small arms fire. Side armor was thinner still. The rear compartment sat completely open to the sky, leaving passengers exposed to artillery airbursts and grenades. Fuel tanks mounted externally on the hull. Ammunition racks lined the interior walls. Every half-track was essentially a mobile bomb waiting for the right spark. German commanders understood this vulnerability. Half-tracks weren't meant to assault fortified positions. They transported infantry close to battle, then withdrew, while soldiers dismounted and fought on foot. In the open terrain of Russia and North Africa, this doctrine worked brilliantly. Half-tracks could maneuver, avoid concentrated anti-tank positions, operate behind the protection of real armor. But by late 1944, German armies no longer fought in open terrain with unlimited maneuver space. December 16th, 1944. The Wehrmacht launches Operation Wacht am Rhein, the offensive history remembers as the Battle of the Bulge. 25 German divisions, including elite Panzer and SS units, smash into American positions across an 85-mile front in the Ardennes forest. The goal: break through to Antwerp, split Allied armies, force a negotiated peace before Soviet forces crush Germany from the east. Hitler's gamble requires speed above all else. German columns must advance 50 miles through the Ardennes, cross the Meuse River, and reach Antwerp within days. Every hour matters. Every delay means Allied reinforcements, air superiority once weather clears, encirclement and destruction. So German forces move in long mechanized columns. Panzers lead, half-tracks follow immediately behind, packed with panzer grenadiers ready to exploit breakthroughs. Supply trucks trail in endless lines. The columns stretch for miles along narrow Ardennes roads that wind through dense forest, that funnel traffic through villages and crossroads, that offer no room to maneuver when ambushed. American forces reel under the initial assault. Some units break and run. Others retreat in confusion. But not everywhere. At critical points, St. Vith, Bastogne, Elsenborn Ridge, dozens of unnamed crossroads, American soldiers dig in and refuse to move. Among them, Bazooka teams who'd spent months learning their weapon. By December 20th, the German offensive begins to stall. Not everywhere, but in enough places to disrupt timetables. Panzer divisions outrun their supply lines. Infantry gets bottled up behind burning vehicles. And along those forest roads, American soldiers with bazookas learn something that will change the battle. Half-tracks burn beautifully. A single M6A1 rocket, properly placed, doesn't just penetrate the thin armor. The shaped charge punches through and detonates inside a confined space, packed with fuel, ammunition, and human beings. The initial explosion triggers secondary detonations. Stored ammunition cooks off in chains. Fuel tanks rupture and ignite. Within seconds, a functioning vehicle becomes an inferno that blocks the entire road. And German columns, built for speed on narrow forest roads, have nowhere to go. This is the tactical reality facing German mechanized forces by December 21st. Every advance requires roads. Every road passes through potential ambush terrain. Every ambush can trap entire columns. And every burning half-track costs not just the vehicle and its passengers, but precious time the offensive cannot afford. Somewhere in the Ardennes that morning, 10 half-tracks are about to demonstrate this lesson with perfect clarity. The column appears through morning fog at 0647 hours. 10 SKFZ, 251 half-tracks, moving in tactical formation. 50 yards between vehicles, enough spacing to prevent a single artillery round from destroying multiple targets. Standard German doctrine for mechanized movement through contested terrain. Inside each vehicle, 10 panzer grenadiers grip their weapons against the cold. Some smoke cigarettes, others stare blankly at the forest sliding past. They've been advancing for 5 days straight with minimal sleep. They don't expect contact this close to their own lines. American forces were supposed to be retreating. Intelligence reported shattered units falling back toward the Meuse River. This road should be clear. A supply route for follow-on forces, not a front-line combat zone. The half-track commanders keep their vehicles moving at a steady 15 miles per hour, fast enough to maintain momentum, but slow enough to navigate the icy road surface. They pass the first concealed position without noticing. Hidden 30 yards into the tree line, Corporal James Brunger lies prone behind a snow-covered log. His bazooka team, himself as gunner, Private Wilson as loader, has occupied this position since 0400 hours. 3 hours of waiting in temperatures hovering near 0 Fahrenheit. 3 hours of watching their breath fog, of flexing fingers to maintain feeling, of listening to distant artillery rumble through the pre-dawn darkness. Brunger watches the lead half-track pass his position. He doesn't fire. His orders are clear. Wait for the entire column to enter the kill zone. Let them commit. Let them believe the road is safe. Then strike from multiple positions simultaneously to maximize chaos and prevent escape. 50 yards behind Brunger, another bazooka team mirrors his patience. 50 yards ahead, a third team waits with equal discipline. The ambush involves 6 two-man bazooka teams positioned along a 200-yard stretch of road, 12 soldiers about to engage a mechanized column carrying nearly 100 German infantry. The odds look suicidal on paper. The fourth half-track draws, even with Brunger's position. Through his weapon's crude sight, he can see the vehicle commander standing in the open compartment, binoculars raised, scanning the forest. Can see the Panzer Grenadiers huddled below, their coal scuttle helmets visible above the armored sides. Can see the exhaust vapor trailing behind in the cold air. Can see the exact point where the fuel tank mounts to the hull. The 10th and final vehicle enters the kill zone. Brunger doesn't hear the signal, a single whistle blast from the squad leader, but he sees the result. 50 yards ahead, the lead half-track erupts in a column of orange flame that towers 30 feet above the road. The M6A1 rocket punches through the thin side armor directly into the fuel tank. Burning gasoline floods the crew compartment in less than a second. Men ignite like torches. Brunger doesn't watch. He's already tracking his own target, the fourth vehicle, now accelerating desperately, driver trying to escape the trap that's already closed. Wilson slaps the rocket into the launcher's breech, taps Brunger's helmet. Up! Brunger squeezes the trigger. The M1A1 bazooka produces minimal recoil. Most of the rocket's propellant exhausts harmlessly behind the launcher. But the sound is distinctive. A sharp crack followed by a rushing whoosh as the rocket accelerates toward its target. Flight time at 50 yards, less than 1 second. The shaped charge detonates on impact. What happens next occurs too fast for human perception to process as separate events. The copper liner inside the warhead collapses under explosive force, forming a superheated jet traveling at nearly 25,000 feet per second. The jet punches through the half-track's 8mm side armor like tissue paper. Inside the crew compartment, the jet maintains enough energy to penetrate ammunition crates, fuel containers, the bodies of men who have no time to scream. Then physics takes over. Small arms ammunition begins cooking off in rapid chains, 9mm rounds, 7.92mm Mauser cartridges, hand grenades, Panzerfaust warheads. Each detonation triggers others. The fuel tank ruptures. Burning gasoline mixes with high explosive. The half-track's thin armor, designed to keep bullets out, now serves as a containment vessel that amplifies internal pressure until structural failure becomes inevitable. The vehicle explodes, not a Hollywood fireball, but a violent mechanical disintegration. The roof tears away. Side panels peel outward. The engine block lifts vertically off its mounts. And a Panzer Grenadier, whether already dead or dying, launches upward with enough force to clear the tree line. Brunger will later estimate the body traveled 100 feet into the air before disappearing into the forest. He doesn't have time to confirm. Wilson is already loading the second rocket. Along the kill zone, the other bazooka teams are firing with mechanical precision. The second half-track burns. The fifth. The seventh. German soldiers pour from the surviving vehicles, desperate to escape the metal coffins. Some make it to the tree line. Others fall in the road as American riflemen, positioned to support the bazooka teams, open fire with disciplined volleys. The third half-track attempts to reverse, driver frantically working the transmission. It backs directly into the burning wreckage of the fourth vehicle. The collision ruptures the third vehicle's fuel line. Burning gasoline spreads beneath both half-tracks like liquid death. 12 seconds have elapsed since the ambush began. The German column commander realizes his situation with terrible clarity. Oberleutnant Klaus Steiner, 28 years old, veteran of campaigns from Poland to Normandy, stands in the sixth half-track watching his formation disintegrate. 5 vehicles burn ahead of him. The road forward is blocked by flaming wreckage. Behind him, the 8th and 9th half-tracks have stopped, their commanders waiting for orders that won't save them. He knows this type of ambush. American infantry, close range, bazookas. The doctrine is clear. Dismount immediately, assault the ambush positions with overwhelming infantry firepower, suppress the anti-tank teams long enough for vehicles to escape or maneuver. But doctrine assumes your vehicles survive long enough to execute it. Steiner screams orders to his driver. The half-track lurches off the road, attempting to bypass the burning vehicles by cutting through the forest. The front wheels plow into deep snow. The tracks churn for purchase on frozen ground. For 3 seconds, the vehicle makes progress, crashing through undergrowth, splintering saplings. Then the rocket hits the rear compartment. The M6A1 warhead punches through the open top at a steep angle, detonating against the ammunition storage racks bolted to the left side. 27.9 P2Me ammunition belts for the vehicle's MG-42 machine gun, 4,000 rounds total, begin cooking off simultaneously. The interior becomes a horizontal storm of ricocheting bullets that tear through equipment, armor, flesh. Steiner dies without understanding what killed him. Brunge has already shifted to his third target. The 8th half-track stopped in the road 70 yards away, engine still running, driver visible through the windscreen. An easy shot at this range. Wilson loads, taps the helmet. Brunge fires. This rocket hits the engine compartment. German half-tracks mount their engines in the front, a design choice that provides some protection for the driver, but creates a catastrophic vulnerability when penetrated. The shaped charge tears through the engine block, igniting fuel lines, oil reservoirs, electrical systems. The engine catches fire immediately. Flames spread backward through the crew compartment with terrifying speed. The driver escapes through the front hatch, his uniform already burning. He runs 6 steps before collapsing in the snow. The Panzer Grenadiers in the rear compartment aren't as fortunate. The vehicle's open-top design, meant to allow rapid dismount, now traps them as flames fill the interior faster than they can climb over the sides. Their screams carry across the kill zone. The 9th half-track reverses frantically, driver blind with panic, vehicle swerving across the road. It makes 30 yards before another Bazooka team's rocket strikes the left track assembly. The warhead severs the track, locks the left side, sends the vehicle spinning counterclockwise like a pinwheel. It completes half a rotation before sliding sideways into a drainage ditch and tipping onto its side. Panzer Grenadiers spill from the overturned vehicle. Some crawl, others run. American rifles crack from the tree line. Men fall. The 10th and final half-track never moves. Its crew abandoned it the moment the ambush began, fleeing into the forest, rather than staying with a vehicle they knew would burn. They're right. A rocket strikes the empty half-track 30 seconds later, adding one more funeral pyre to the collection. Brunge conducts a tactical count. 10 half-tracks, 10 certain kills. Some burn with enough intensity to turn armor into slag. Others smolder, their interiors gutted by ammunition fires. 2 have exploded so violently that debris litters the road for 50 yards. Total elapsed time, 7 minutes. The surviving Germans, perhaps 40 men from the original 100, retreat eastward through the forest, abandoning weapons, equipment, wounded comrades in their desperation to escape. American forces don't pursue. Their mission isn't annihilation. It's denial. This road will remain closed for hours while engineers clear the wreckage. Maybe days if the burned-out hulks prove too damaged to move. Every hour matters in the Battle of the Bulge. Every blocked road is a German division that doesn't reach its objective on time. Every burning half-track is a squad that won't reinforce a breakthrough, won't exploit a gap, won't turn an Allied retreat into a rout. Brunge's team fires 18 rockets total, 6 per man for 3 bazookas actively engaged. Cost per rocket, approximately $8 in 1944 currency. Total ammunition expenditure, less than $150. 10 half-tracks destroyed. Nearly 100 German casualties. 1 critical road interdicted. Multiple German units delayed for hours waiting for alternate routes. Return on investment, incalculable. But the true cost won't be measured in dollars or destroyed vehicles. It will be measured in the reports that reached German intelligence over the following days. Reports from multiple sectors, multiple engagements, all describing the same pattern. American infantry with bazookas destroying mechanized columns with devastating efficiency. The weapon the Germans captured, studied and dismissed. The weapon they believed their Panzerschreck had made obsolete. That basic American bazooka. It's killing them. The smoke rises for hours, thick black columns visible for miles, marking the grave of Steiner's column like a monument no one requested. German reconnaissance aircraft photographed the site the following day. 10 burned hulks scattered across 200 yards of forest road, some still smoldering 36 hours after the ambush. The images circulate through Wehrmacht intelligence channels with alarming speed. They aren't the only ones. December 22nd, Krinkelrockerath, Belgium. American bazooka teams destroy 48 German armored fighting vehicles in a single day of desperate fighting. Not just half-tracks, Panzer IVs, Panthers, even a Tiger tank succumbs to a lucky shot through the rear engine deck. German commanders send frantic reports to division headquarters. American infantry refuses to retreat despite overwhelming armor superiority. The reports don't mention fear of tanks. They mention fear of American anti-tank weapons. December 23rd, near Bastogne. The 101st Airborne, surrounded and outnumbered, uses bazookas to destroy German armor attempting to crush the pocket. Paratroopers, lightly armed infantry never intended to fight tanks, knock out vehicle after vehicle at point-blank range. When German forces finally withdraw on December 26th, the roads around Bastogne are littered with destroyed armor, much of it killed by weapons the Germans considered inferior. The pattern repeats across the entire Ardennes front. German mechanized units designed for rapid exploitation find themselves trapped on narrow roads with burning vehicles blocking every avenue of advance. Half-tracks prove particularly vulnerable. Their thin armor, no match for the M6A1-shaped charges. Their open tops perfect targets for high-angle shots. But even heavier armor suffers. American bazooka teams learn to target tracks, optics, engine compartments, any weakness that can immobilize or disable. By December 25th, German intelligence produces a formal assessment of American bazooka effectiveness. The report makes uncomfortable reading for Wehrmacht leadership. It acknowledges that American infantry anti-tank capabilities have been significantly underestimated. It notes that the M1A1 bazooka, while inferior to the Panzerschreck in range and penetration, proves more than adequate against the majority of German armored vehicles when employed from ambush positions. It warns that German tactical doctrine, long mechanized columns on narrow roads, creates ideal conditions for American bazooka tactics. Most damning, the report recommends immediate tactical changes to counter the threat. Mechanized units should avoid predictable routes. Infantry should dismount before entering potential ambush zones. Half-tracks should receive armor upgrades or be withdrawn from frontline service. Panzers should never operate without extensive infantry screening. The recommendations arrived too late to save the Ardennes offensive. By Christmas Day, the German advance has stalled across the entire front, not because of overwhelming Allied counterattacks. Those come later. The offensive stalls because German units can't advance fast enough, can't maintain momentum, can't accept the casualties required to force roads defended by American infantry with bazookas. The psychological impact proves as significant as the tactical one. German infantry, already exhausted from 5 years of war, now fear advancing in half-tracks. Veterans who survived Normandy, who crossed France in full retreat, who endured Allied artillery and air supremacy, these same soldiers refuse to mount vehicles they know will burn when hit. Officers report discipline problems, reluctance to advance, demands to fight on foot despite the loss of mobility. The Americans notice. Intelligence reports document German forces increasingly abandoning vehicles and conducting infantry-only advances. The Wehrmacht is reverting to 1918 tactics because their soldiers no longer trust their armor to protect them from weapons that cost $8 per shot. Back at the ambush site, American engineers spend 2 days clearing the road. The half-tracks have burned so intensely that metal fused to the underlying roadbed. Explosives are required to break the wrecks apart for removal. Inside the vehicles, remains are often unidentifiable. Heat and ammunition detonations reduce human bodies to fragments and ash. German graves registration teams eventually recover what they can. Steiner's body is identified by his rank insignia, partially melted into his uniform. Most of his men are listed as missing, their remains too damaged for identification. The official casualty report lists the unit as destroyed by enemy action. It doesn't specify what type of action, doesn't mention bazookas, doesn't admit that a dozen American soldiers with simple tube weapons annihilated an entire mechanized column. But everyone knows. The numbers tell a story German propaganda couldn't spin. January 1945. As the Battle of the Bulge concludes, Allied intelligence compiles casualty assessments. German armored losses during the offensive exceed 600 vehicles, tanks, assault guns, tank destroyers, self-propelled artillery. But the vehicle category with the highest loss rate isn't heavy armor. It's half-tracks, hundreds destroyed, abandoned, or captured. The majority killed by infantry anti-tank weapons, primarily bazookas. American production statistics provide the counter-narrative. By January 1945, U.S. factories have manufactured over 460,000 bazooka rockets. The M1A1 launcher itself is so simple that production occurs across multiple facilities using basic metalworking equipment. Unit cost remains astonishingly low. The complete weapon system, launcher, sight, and electrical firing mechanism costs approximately $100. A single German half-track costs roughly 22,000 Reichsmarks, equivalent to several $1,000s. The mathematics of industrial warfare favor America overwhelmingly. For every half-track Germany produces, America manufactures enough bazookas to destroy a dozen. For every Panzerschreck the Wehrmacht fields, heavier, more expensive, requiring specialized manufacturing, America produces 3 M1A1s with money left over for rockets. German engineering superiority means nothing when American industry can overwhelm it with adequate weapons produced in limitless quantities. General Eisenhower understands this perfectly. In post-battle assessments, he calls the bazooka one of the 4 tools of victory that won the European War, alongside the C-47 transport, the Jeep, and the atomic bomb. Not the most powerful weapon, not the most sophisticated, but the most cost-effective infantry anti-armor weapon ever deployed. A weapon that gives every infantryman the capability to destroy vehicles worth 100 times the weapon's cost. American tactical doctrine evolves rapidly to exploit this advantage. By February 1945, every infantry squad carries at least 1 bazooka team. Training emphasizes aggressive employment. Infantry units are expected to hunt armor, not merely defend against it. After-action reports from the Ardennes are studied obsessively, tactics refined, lessons distributed throughout European theater forces. The Germans attempt countermeasures. Some half-tracks receive field-expedient armor upgrades, sandbags, spare track links, concrete, that add weight and reduce mobility while providing minimal protection against shaped charges. Other units abandon half-tracks entirely, converting mechanized infantry back to truck-mobile or foot-mobile formations. Tactical manuals are revised to emphasize dispersion, reconnaissance, and avoidance of predictable routes. None of it matters. By spring 1945, German forces are retreating on all fronts. The Wehrmacht, that once conquered Europe in months, now struggles to hold shrinking pockets of territory. Half-tracks, when they appear at all, are used cautiously. Kept away from infantry engagement zones, employed only when air superiority and reconnaissance can guarantee safe routes. The weapon the Germans captured and believed they'd surpassed now dominates the battlefield. American soldiers develop an almost casual confidence in their bazookas. Veterans trade stories of improbable kills. Panthers destroyed at 300 yards. Tiger tanks immobilized by track hits. Entire German positions suppressed by bazooka fire alone. The weapon becomes so ubiquitous in American tactical thinking that infantry units routinely engage targets that previous doctrine considered appropriate only for dedicated anti-tank weapons. The bazooka's influence extends beyond the European theater. In the Pacific, Marine and Army forces use bazookas against Japanese bunkers, pillboxes, and the occasional tank with devastating effect. The weapon's portability makes it ideal for island warfare, where heavy anti-tank guns can't be easily landed or maneuvered. Japanese forces, lacking effective armor, still face bazookas, used as general-purpose assault weapons. Post-war analysis reveals the weapon's true significance. The M1 bazooka and its derivatives represent the first truly successful man-portable anti-tank weapon. Previous infantry anti-tank options, anti-tank rifles, magnetic mines, grenades, required extraordinary courage and point-blank range to be effective. The bazooka gives ordinary soldiers the ability to destroy armor from concealment at ranges up to 300 yards. It democratizes anti-tank warfare. Every major military power after WWII develops similar weapons. The Soviet RPG series, the Swedish Carl Gustaf, the American M72 Law, all trace their conceptual lineage to that simple tube first deployed in North Africa, captured by Germans who thought they could improve it, then perfected by Americans who understood that good enough weapons available in quantity beat superior weapons available in scarcity. The Germans learned this lesson too late. On a frozen Belgian road in December 1944, 10 half-tracks burned because German intelligence underestimated American ingenuity, because German engineers believed their Panzerschreck made them invulnerable, because German commanders didn't respect a weapon that looked crude and simple. They paid for that mistake with blood and steel. There's a photograph that survives from the Ardennes, black and white, grainy, shot by an Army Signal Corps photographer in late December 1944. It shows an American soldier, young, unshaven, eyes hollow from exhaustion, sitting against a tree with a bazooka resting across his knees. Behind him, smoke rises from something burning just outside the frame. The caption reads simply, "Infantry, Belgium." That soldier could be Corporal Brunge, could be any of 10,000 others who carried the same weapon through the same frozen forests. The photograph doesn't capture glory or heroism in the classical sense. It captures something more fundamental, the democratization of violence that defines modern warfare. For thousands of years, armor dominated battlefields because only specialized forces could defeat it. Knights required other knights. Tanks required other tanks, or dedicated anti-tank guns weighing thousands of pounds. Infantry faced armored enemies with courage and desperation, but rarely with realistic hope of victory. The bazooka changed that equation permanently. An $8 rocket, a 13-pound tube, 2 soldiers with minimal training. Together, they could destroy vehicles representing years of industrial production, months of crew training, millions of dollars in investment. The cost-benefit analysis wasn't even close. For the price of a single German half-track, America could equip an entire infantry company with bazookas and ammunition sufficient to destroy every armored vehicle in a panzer division. This is the calculus that wins wars between industrial nations. Not superior technology, though that helps. Not tactical brilliance, though that matters. Wars between industrial powers are won by the side that can produce adequate weapons faster than the enemy can destroy them. The bazooka embodied this philosophy perfectly, simple enough to manufacture by the hundreds of thousands, effective enough to kill anything it could hit, cheap enough that losing one didn't matter because 10 more would arrive tomorrow. The Germans never understood this. They built better tanks, better anti-tank weapons, better everything. The Panzerschreck was objectively superior to the M1A1 bazooka by every measurable metric. But superiority meant nothing when German factories produced thousands, while American factories produced hundreds of thousands. On that December morning, 10 half-tracks burned because America had learned what Germany never could. That quantity has a quality all its own. The bazooka served through Korea and into Vietnam before finally being replaced by more modern weapons. But its legacy endures in every shoulder-fired anti-tank weapon carried by infantry worldwide. The concept it pioneered, giving individual soldiers the capability to destroy armored vehicles, remains fundamental to modern military doctrine. And somewhere in Belgium, now overgrown and peaceful, a forest road still bears scars from fires that burned 8 decades ago. 10 metal coffins scattered across 200 yards. A monument to underestimation, a reminder that wars are won not by the best weapons, but by the right weapons in the right hands at the right moment. The Germans couldn't believe a basic bazooka could defeat them, until they learned otherwise, one burning half-track at a time.